You've probably heard the phrase, let your money work for you. But here's the hidden truth. Money doesn't work unless you give it enough weight. Compounding isn't magic, it's physics. You can start early, follow every piece of advice, and still feel like you're getting nowhere. The reason is simple. Compounding feels painfully slow until one powerful framework flips the switch, the 7-5-3-1 rule. This is the blueprint that takes compounding from frustratingly flat to explosively real. Meet Daniel. At 26, he lived modestly, skipped the daily fancy coffees, and invested $150 a month with religious discipline. He was the poster child for doing everything right. 10 years later, he checked his account. The balance? So, is compounding a scam? Not at all. But if you've ever wondered why the wealthy seem to build fortunes faster, even when they start later, this video is for you. Today we're breaking down why compounding feels so slow and how the 7-5-3-1 rule kicks in to change everything. If you're serious about building wealth smarter, subscribe right now so you don't miss the strategies that turn frustration into financial freedom. Let's kick things off with a question that frustrates a lot of people. Why does compounding feel like it's not working? It's supposed to be the eighth wonder of the world, but when you first try it, it can feel like the eighth disappointment. You save, you invest, you reinvest, and after years, your balance barely seems to move. Why does this happen? Because compounding doesn't move in a straight line. It moves in a curve, and every curve starts with a flat stretch. The early years of compounding are the most discouraging because the numbers feel microscopic. Invest $200 a month at a 7% return, and after 3 years, you might have around $7,800. That's not life-changing. It's a decent emergency fund, and this is where most people quit. The psychology behind this is brutal. We're wired to want instant results. Our brains crave progress we can see and feel. But compounding punishes impatience. It hides its rewards behind time. Now let's revisit Daniel. He was right to start, but he was missing the key ingredient, scale. Compounding needs fuel. Saving $150 a month is a great start, but it's like trying to launch a rocket with a firecracker. You have the right idea, but you lack the thrust. The hard truth is that in the beginning, the most important factor for wealth growth isn't your investment returns. It's your savings rate. It's how much money you can actually put into the system. For the first decade of your journey, your personal contributions will likely have a bigger impact on your portfolio's growth than the market returns themselves. This is where the 7-5-3-1 rule comes in. This isn't a rigid mathematical formula, it's a strategic framework for accelerating your wealth. It stands for the 4 pillars you need to focus on to fuel your compounding engine. 7 is for your savings rate. Your goal is to get this as high as you can, aiming for at least 15-20% of your income and pushing higher if possible. This is your primary fuel source. 5 is for your 5-figure investment years. This is the stage where you consistently add 5 figures, $10,000 or more, to your investments each year. This is the tipping point where your contributions start creating real momentum. 3 is for the 3 income streams. Relying on a single paycheck is risky. You need to develop at least 2 other sources of income, whether it's a side hustle, freelance work, or a small business. This diversifies your earning power and massively increases your savings rate. Finally, 1 is for one high-income skill. This is the skill you master that dramatically increases your primary income. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. It allows you to earn more, save more, and hit those 5-figure investment years faster. Daniel's mistake wasn't investing. It was stopping at just one piece of the puzzle. He was focused only on disciplined saving without a plan to scale his income. Had he applied the 7-5-3-1 rule, his story could have been very different. Instead of just saving $150 a month, he could have focused on developing a high-income skill to boost his salary. This would have increased his savings rate. With that extra income, he could have started a side hustle, adding a second income stream. Soon, he'd be hitting 5-figure investment years, pouring fuel onto his compounding fire. His $24,000 after 10 years could have easily been $100,000 or more. The snowball would finally have the mass it needed to start an avalanche. So, how can you apply this today? Start by auditing your finances. What is your current savings rate? If it's below 15%, your first mission is to increase it. Next, identify your one high-income skill. What can you become exceptionally good at that the market values? Focus on mastering it. Then, brainstorm ideas for a second and third income stream. It doesn't have to be a massive business overnight. Start small. The goal is to build momentum. Compounding isn't a set-it-and-forget-it machine for small amounts. It's an engine that you need to actively fuel, especially in the beginning. Stop waiting for magic to happen and start building the machine that makes your wealth inevitable. The 7-to-5-3-1 rule provides the blueprint. Ever wonder why Warren Buffett made 99% of his fortune after turning 50? It wasn't some hidden genius strategy. It was simply the unstoppable power of compounding finally taking off after decades of patience. The weight of his capital finally bent the curve upward. The tragedy for most people is that they quit right before this happens. They stop saving, they pull their money out, or they chase the next hot trend. And every single time, they reset the clock back to zero. So if those first few years of investing feel slow and almost hopeless, when does the magic actually start? What's the real threshold where compounding begins to show its incredible power? This brings us to the first number in the 7-5-31 rule, the number 7. 7 years. That's the minimum time horizon you need for compounding to start feeling real. Why 7? Because looking back through market history, 7 years is typically the point where that flat line starts to curve noticeably upwards. In fact, studies on systematic investing show that investors who stay committed for at least 7 years almost never lose money. Think about it this way. The stock market doesn't go up in a straight line. It swings wildly. If you're only looking at a 2 or 3 year window, you might get caught in a downswing and think compounding is a myth. But when you stretch that time frame to 7 years, those bumps and dips start to smooth out. By then, your financial snowball has grown big enough to start rolling and picking up momentum all on its own. And here's the part that surprises most people. 7 years is still just the beginning in the world of compounding. The real, life-changing magic happens after 10, 15, or even 20 years. But if you can commit to at least 7, you've given yourself the runway to actually see momentum build. Anything less is like judging a race car's engine before it's even had a chance to warm up. This isn't just about patience, it's about a fundamental shift in your mindset. A 7-year time frame forces you to stop thinking about this month or this quarter and start thinking in terms of economic cycles. You move from reacting emotionally to market news to planning strategically for the long term. But just waiting for 7 years isn't enough. You need a solid structure to survive the journey, and that's where the number 5 in the 75-31 rule comes in. Diversification isn't just about owning a little bit of everything, it's about building 5 strong, distinct pillars to support your compounding engine. The first pillar is broad market index funds, which give you exposure to the overall growth of the economy. The second is dividend-paying stocks, which provide a steady stream of cash you can reinvest. The third is mid- and small-cap growth stocks for higher potential rewards. The fourth is global exposure because great companies exist outside your home country. And the fifth pillar is defensive assets, like bonds or cash, to stabilize your portfolio when things get volatile. These pillars work together to create a resilient foundation, allowing your investments to grow steadily through all the market's ups and downs. Why do these 5 asset classes matter so much? Because compounding is a team sport, not a solo act. If you put all your money in one basket, a single market crash can wipe out years of hard work. But when you spread your investments across these 5 pillars, you build a fortress of financial resilience. Sure, some will dip while others soar, but together they create a balanced, steady path to growth. Think of it like building a house. Would you ever balance it on just one pillar? Of course not. One crack, and the whole structure collapses. With 5 pillars, your foundation is strong enough to withstand any storm. But even with the perfect diversification strategy, the biggest threat to your compounding journey isn't the market, it's your own mind. That's where the number 3 comes in. Compounding isn't just about math, it's about mastering your psychology. Most investors get derailed by 3 emotional traps: disappointment, frustration, and panic. First, there's disappointment. This sneaks in when your returns don't live up to your grand expectations. You've been investing diligently for a few years, but your account balance feels underwhelming. That little voice of doubt starts whispering, "Is this even working?" Next comes frustration. This hits when you start playing the comparison game. Your friend is bragging about some quick win in a hot new asset, while you're patiently waiting for your diversified portfolio to do its thing. Frustration makes you question your entire strategy, tempting you to chase after risky short-term gains. And then there's panic. This is the most destructive trap of all. It strikes when the market takes a nosedive and your portfolio value drops below what you originally invested. Fear screams at you to sell everything before it gets worse. But here's the hard truth. Cashing out in a panic doesn't just stop the bleeding, it resets your compounding clock to 0, killing all your momentum. Every single successful investor has faced these 3 emotions. The only difference is they didn't give in, they pushed through. And that's exactly why we created the 2 Wealth Command Center. It's a simple, powerful Google Sheet system designed to be your strategy hub, helping you track your income, spending, and net worth all in one place. It shows you exactly where your money is going, where it's growing, and how your small, consistent efforts are compounding over time. When you can actually see your progress, you're building an emotional shield against disappointment, frustration, and panic. If you want to get ahead, the wait list for early access is linked down below. But a strong mindset needs a practical action plan to truly succeed. That brings us to the final number in our rule: 1. One single annual increase to your investment contribution. Why is this non-negotiable? Because a static contribution gets eaten alive by inflation and won't keep up with your growing income or ambitions. Scaling your contributions, even by a small amount, makes a world-changing difference in the long run. Let's say you're investing $500 a month. That's a fantastic start. But what if you increase that amount by just 10% each year? That's $550 next year, $605 the year after, and so on. The best part? You don't have to make giant leaps. One small increase each year, ideally aligned with your income growth, builds momentum without straining your lifestyle. And if your employer offers a raise or bonus, you can funnel part of it directly into your compounding engine. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far and want more topics like this, comment the word "more" down below. Now that you know the framework, 7 to 5, 3, 1, let's put it all together into a step-by-step plan you can start today. Here's how you apply the rule in real life. First, start by committing to at least 7 years. Write it down, set that expectation, and remind yourself that quitting early is the #1 killer of compounding. Next, diversify across the 5 pillars. Allocate percentages that match your personal risk tolerance. For example, maybe you put 40% in index funds, 20% in dividend stocks, 15% in mid-caps, 15% in global exposure, and 10% in bonds or cash. You can always adjust as you grow, but the key is to keep those pillars balanced. Then, prepare for the 3 emotional traps. Expect disappointment, frustration, and even panic, and have strategies ready to combat them. Use tools to visualize your long-term growth curve and remind yourself that temporary feelings do not define permanent results. Finally, implement the 1 annual boost. Automate a contribution increase every single year, even if it's small. Build it right into your budget so it becomes second nature. This isn't about chasing quick wins. It's about designing a system where compounding has no choice but to work its magic. So what's the real payoff if you stick with it? That's where mindset meets freedom. The 7-5-3-1 rule isn't just about numbers. It's a complete mindset shift. Most people think compounding is just a waiting game, It's not. It's a positioning game. You position yourself for 7 years of commitment. You build 5 pillars of diversification. You outlast 3 emotional traps. And you lock in 1 annual boost that accelerates your entire curve. Do this, and something remarkable happens. What once felt like a slow, painful grind suddenly feels like an unstoppable force. Thanks for watching, and if you found this helpful, be sure to like and subscribe for more content just like this.